Oh yeah, the NFL drafting rookies. Hell yeah.
Podcast off the rails already.
But there is not a chance in hell Justin Fields is finishing in the top 10.
You know what, Mikey? Shut it.
He wants
Why
it.
not?
You don't want the smoke.
He's Calvin Johnson. He's Calvin
Oh,
Johnson.
good.
Oh,
God.
my
Yes,
God.
yes, and yes.
What are we gonna do with you?
It just, it adds a little extra flavor to the podcast.
I think you're disrespecting David Njoku.
Thank God
Yeah.
for Joe Flacco. That's all I can say. I'll help the owners. Don't draft Kadarius Toney.
I have to give the people what they want. I mean, come on. I'm going to milk it. I'm going to milk it for all it's worth.
I'll give you something to milk.
Let's rock and roll.
What is up, MHA owners? You're, of course, listening to the MHA podcast. Before we say goodbye to the regular season and prepare for those playoffs, we have to look back on a wild week 14 that had so much at stake, so much on the line, and we'll go through all of it. Eric Lansing joined by Mikey Renault and Todd Diamond. And with all of that going on, the Simpsons game yesterday, did you guys catch that at all? The NFL Simpsons game? I bet you Todd did. Todd loves the Simpsons.
Absolutely. That was knowing my season was over. You know what? I'm gonna smile as I'm watching football. And you know what? That Simpsons thing, that was pretty cool. So
No.
okay.
I tried watching it, and I got through about 2 minutes before I was just like, this is awful and unwatchable.
Okay.
I just thought it was funny. I only saw what was on social media. And of course they showed like when someone scored a touchdown, what it looked like on the Simpsons side of things. And the play-by-play was actually kind of, and it's Lisa Simpson for the touchdown. And I felt like I was watching a like 2005 video game because like it didn't look great and the commentary was kind of stupid. And I don't know. I maybe I'm on the Mikey side of things on this one, but I just didn't see, and I didn't see the whole thing. I just saw it was on social media, and it looked kind of goofy to me.
I mean, it was, hey, they're trying something new, and the Simpsons are iconic. And okay, yes, the way the graphics were, and the way it did look like a video game from from 2005. But I thought it was cool, and it's what it was. But again, I'm probably one of the biggest Simpsons fans there is out there, because Simpsons are great. They're iconic. They're still going on. I mean, obviously it's kind of a little bland now, but the fact that they're trying something new, and whether it succeeded or failed, you gotta give props to it. So I liked it.
Trying something new.
Always with Todd.
Yep.
But I can appreciate it. If you don't have anything at stake this week, get on to something else. I can appreciate it for sure. What a crazy wild weekend. There's a lot to go over. I don't know if we'll have time for MHA trivia because there is a lot to go over. We'll get to that recap in a second, but man, oh man, it was a lot of fun. Got to talk to some people over the phone this weekend, just kind of talking about it. Pretty cool thing. Before we get to that recap, let's jump into some news.
I don't understand what the news is. It's just like, hey, here's a bunch of you can't fix that happened that was horrible.
Not a lot. We're doing this on Tuesday night. Not a lot of injuries out, and not only kind of kept it to within, who's still kind of in the playoff race for the most part. Although we saw James Brooks, you hate to see he suffered a torn ACL in college, kind of came on late in the season after finally kind of rehabbing and getting back onto the field, and then he tears his ACL again, ending his rookie season. Always tough to see. Good old Derek Carr, he fractured his left hand. So anybody that has any Saints, which Todd had a lot of this past week, he may not play for the next couple weeks. It's in his non-throwing hand. We'll see. But he decided to try to leap over 3 defenders and failed miserably. So way to go there, Derek Carr. Joe Burrow injured his left knee on Monday night, but seems to be okay. Mikey, running back, 49ers guy, Isaac Gruendo suffered a foot sprain. Considered day to day. Quick turnaround for the Niners, who take on the Rams on Thursday night. Kenny Walker, still in the mix in the MHA playoffs. He's dealing with a calf issue, getting some tests done on Monday to determine the severity. Not a good sign there. Lemonheads Tampa Bay running back Bucky Irving dealing with a back issue. His ability to play is up in the air, and that's always fun because it was up in the air this past weekend, and he didn't play much because he re-injured his back. And the last one I saw, and you guys can let me know if you saw anything else, George Pickens. He did not play last week for Eaton W's. Is considered doubtful heading into this week, though there's an outside chance he could play against Philly, but you never know with those hamstring issues. Always tough. And the Steelers are in the playoff race, so they have time. They have the benefit, the luxury to sit him if needed. Did I miss anything else, gentlemen?
Nope.
Amazing. So I'm going to go through this recap. It took me a long time to type all this stuff out yesterday. Mikey or Todd, if I missed something, let me know. Feel free to interrupt me and say, no, this is what it was, because there was a lot of information. That's how crazy this weekend was. There was let's just get into it. We had 4 teams already clinched coming into week 14. Kilgore Trout, Notorious CUP, Hot Tamales, and Eaton W's. Kilgore Trout was going to be the number 1 seed for the most part, unless some crazy stuff happened. And Eaton W's pretty much had their 4th seed secured. But the number 2 bye was still up in the air between the Hot Tamales and CUP. And the 5 and 6 seeds were still up in the air for Line Rip, Lemonheads, NWA, and Cooper's Cousins. And of course, not to mention 6 NFL teams on a bye with a lot of top players in the mix. Todd was still kind of in the mix, but a lot had to happen for him. So we'll start with the 3-10 Gonzo Cats and the 10-3 Notorious CUP. Quain squad needed a win and a Tamales loss to earn a first round bye in those MHA playoffs. CUP had 6 players reach double figures, including 46 from Kyler Murray, 15 from Jackson Smith and Jigbo, who's been great this year, and a combined 31 points from CeeDee Lamb and Rico Dowdle on the Monday night game. It looked like CUP was going to roll to their 11th victory, but the combination of Jordan Addison and his 32 points and the 79 points from Josh Allen gave Pollen's team a season-high 156 points in the upset victory over CUP. CUP was missing Terry McLaurin, Nico Collins, and Zay Flowers due to those crazy bye weeks. The loss drops Notorious CUP to the 3rd seed, while the Hot Tamales clinching at the very least a 2nd seed and securing a bye. There was an outside shot for Mikey's team to clinch the top seed. If Kilgore lost, Mikey wins, and Mikey outscores Joe by, I believe, 17.6 points. Anything I missed in that matchup, Gonzo Cats and CUP, Mikey?
No, I don't think
that sounds
so.
all correct, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. I'll keep going. So how did 11, speaking of Kilgore Trout, how did he do against 6 and 7 Lion Rip? Aaron's squad was one of those teams hoping to clinch the 5 or 6 seed. They needed to win and get losses from the Lemonheads or in the NWA or Cooper's Cousins. Lion Rip's wide receiver duo of Justin Jefferson and Puka Nacua, boy, they came ready to play this weekend, combining for 19 receptions, 294 yards receiving, and 3 touchdowns for 59 points. I know there was some concern with Justin Jefferson, he being quiet of late, but he was not quiet here this weekend. His recent trade acquisition, Jahmyr Gibbs, was great. He had 17 points, and Jalen Hurts was average at about 42 points. On the other side, Kilgore got a nice 15 points from Cooper Kupp and 12 points from Garrett Wilson. And we can't say enough about Chuba Hubbard and his 2024 season. Another 19 points from the Carolina running back. Lion Rip held a 148-89 lead heading into Monday night, and we'll get back to that Monday night here in a second. The Lemonheads needed a win to clinch or lose and have Lion Rip lose and or the NWA lose. Actually, no, I needed both of them to lose. They took on the Eaton W's, who was already in the playoffs. 6 players reached 10 or more for Kevin's squad, including 47 from Matt Stafford, who played pretty well against that stout Bills defense. That turned into a shootout. Eaton W's got 15 from Jalen Waddle, 16 from kicker Jason Sanders, and 10 from Amari Cooper. Eric's team had 4 players with 4 points or less, but got a whopping 60 points from Tua Tagovailoa and 11 points from Jonnu Smith. That Miami Jets game went into overtime, and the Dolphins got the ball first. Thank goodness. Tua racked up completions, a few of those to Smith, And then Tua found his tight end for the game-winning touchdown, and both finished with a combined 71 points. Kyron Williams scored twice. He reached 23 points. And the Lemonheads held a 127-113 lead heading into the Monday night affair, with Kevin's squad still having Chase Brown and the Bengals defense. We'll get to that Monday night game in a bit. This is what I'm talking about. There's a lot going on. The NWA at 6-7, needing a win, and losses from the Lemonheads and Line Rip. To get a playoff berth, they took on 4-9 Chad Powers fan club. G's team had some awesome performances. 22 points from Tyreek Hill, 20 points from Devontae Adams. How about 17 points from Tyrone Tracy Jr. and 13 from one of the top tight ends in the MHA and George Kittle. And Baker Mayfield was solid with 43 points. In that Sunday night game, the NWA needed Isaiah Pacheco to score at least 17 points to help NWA catch the Lemonheads in points scored, but the Chiefs running back could only muster up 7 points, which meant the NWA needed to win because a loss would put them behind the Lemonheads in points and out of the playoffs. Chad Powers, however, came ready to play in this one. 23 points from Rashad White, of course, Lansing, the Lemonheads losing Bucky Irving, so Rashad White picked up the slack. 20 points from James Conner. And how about Khalil Shakur, who benefited from Josh Allen's big day as the wide receiver, came away with 16 points. Justin Herbert was below average for miles as the Chargers quarterback mustered up just 36 points. It was a 148-130 lead for the NWA heading into the Bengals-Cowboys matchup. And, of course, you know what I'm going to say. We'll get to that momentarily. Those 10-3 Hot Tamales faced off against a 2-11 Belt Sanders. Kind of a low-scoring day for Mikey's team, but Josh Jacobs ran for 3 touchdowns to really start off his week towards 24 points. Saquon Barkley continues his stellar season, 14 from the Philly running back, and David Montgomery. Mikey used him, and he found the end zone and caught 5 passes for 17 points. Allen's team had 5 players reach double figures, including 40 from Patrick Mahomes, an amazing 23 points from Jawan Jennings, who had 2 touchdown catches. The Belt Sanders had a 119-95 lead heading into the Monday night game. And the final game on the weekend were those 5-8 Butterfingers who took on 7-6 Cooper's Cousins. Todd had a long shot to get in, while the Cooper's Cousins just needed a win to earn that 6th seed. It was the lowest scoring game of the week. The Butterfingers ran with Derek Carr for some reason over Brock Purdy. Carr got hurt late and managed just 33 points. But Todd's team did get double figures from Darnell Mooney and Aaron Jones, Alvin Kamara, and David Njoku. Dylan started off slow with just 28 points from Jordan Love, but his running back tandem of Devin Achane and Bijan Robinson combined for 36, and he got 10 points from Jets running back Braylon Allen, who came in for the injured Breece Hall. This one also needed Monday night, as the Butterfingers were up 108-105, with Cooper's Cousins having Cowboys tight end Jake Ferguson still to go. So let's get to that Monday night game. I'm still talking, guys. This is crazy. So let's get to that Monday night affair as the Bengals took on the Cowboys. Cooper's Cousins got their 3 points from Jake Ferguson relatively early, scoring that 5 seed and finishing with an 8-6 record. Sorry, Todd. We saw Cooper Rush struggle his way to 33 points for the Hot Tamales, but they secured the win and the 11-3 record. Mikey's team did not reach Kilgore in total points, thus clinching the number 2 seed and that bye. Chase Brown had a long touchdown catch and touchdown that put away any hope for the Lemonheads to come out with a win, but Eric's team still could get in with an NWA loss and a Lion Rip loss. Chad Powers needed 18 points from Jamar Chase to defeat the NWA, and he got that by halftime, ending the NWA's chances of reaching the MHA playoffs. Jamar Chase ended up with 36. So it came down to Lion Rip or the Lemonheads vying for that 6th seed. T. Higgins only managed 3 points in the game, but Joe Burrow had 35 points by halftime. The Bengals quarterback got Kilgore to within 2 points of beating Lion Rip, but a sack on 4th down very late in the game forced the Bengals to have to punt with 2 minutes on the clock. If the Cowboys got the punt, matriculated up the field, kicked the field goal with no time left, Lion Rip would be in the playoffs. The Lemonheads were hoping for a quick 3-and-out to maybe get the ball back to Burrow before overtime or go into overtime. So what happens? The Cowboys block the punt. It goes beyond the line of scrimmage. A Cowboy tries to grab it. It goes through his hands, and a Bengal recovers it to get the ball right back to Burrow. Burrow finds Iovas for a completion to get it to within 1. Then 2 plays later, Burrow finds Chase, who takes a 7-yard pass and makes a nice move to take it to the house for the touchdown, giving Kilgore Trout the 156-148 win over Lion Rip, sending the Lemonheads to the postseason. Whew! That is a lot of stuff that took place this weekend. I'll just ask you guys, Mikey, I mean, you're obviously following this very, very close. What stood out to you this weekend? What was crazy? Obviously, there's a lot of craziness, but is there anything that really kind of like, man, this is what fantasy football is about? For those who are more comfortably in a position than me, Aaron, or NWA were.
Well, I mean, that punt was absolutely absurd.
It's crazy.
Yeah, and I asked Aaron today if he was watching. He said he was.
Yeah, you said,
He wa-
yeah, I was talking to Anna, and she said she was watching with him. Yeah, so.
yeah, he wasn't happy about it, obviously. Because yeah, I mean, he blocked the punt, and it puts him almost right in Aubrey's field goal range.
Yep.
And so, yeah, I mean, that was just nuts. You know, we were talking on Sunday night about, you know, you needing, obviously, you and Aaron both needing, you know, Chad Powers fan club to beat NWA. And we talked about how he needed like 18 or 19 points from Jamar Chase, which was doable. But I mean, that's still hard to get
That's still a
from a
good
wide
day.
receiver.
Yeah.
He had that mid-second quarter, which was just craziness.
Yeah.
Like Dylan was still behind Todd at that point, and it had already clinched because of what Jamar Chase had done. I mean, you know, that whole part of it was crazy. You know, the Tua to Johnny Smith, who had 0 points at the end of the game,
0 points,
ends up with over 11. You know, and that was so important, because if that doesn't happen, it's not you in the playoffs.
It's not.
NWA.
So I was going to say, yeah, sorry, I was going to say this for the studs and duds, but that last drive in overtime for Tua and Jonnu totaled 24 points between them. And it helped me beat NWA by 9 points.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. That overtime, or if someone kicks a field goal or whatever the F happened. I mean, remember when we were talking, I saw the kickoff. I was like, man, Dolphins didn't get the kickoff. And I was like, oh, wait a minute. There's still a few seconds left on the clock. They ended up getting the kickoff, and then they took it all the way down, because that's what you want, is you want them to go and score the touchdown, not the field goal. Because at that point, if the other team, the Jets, they get the kickoff, then they go down, maybe kick a field goal. Maybe they don't score, they have to punt. Then all that the Dolphins need is a field goal to win the game. And so, but since they got it first, they went down to score, and they did it and got 24 mother-loving points, which was incredible. Because, I mean, at that point, I didn't feel good about my team. I didn't think my team was going to win, and I felt a little better about it at that point. But, I mean, yeah, that makes a huge difference. Sorry, you can go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, and it just goes to show you, and this is the season in its entirety.
Yeah.
Every single point, no matter when it happens, it matters. And I mean, for you and G to have that kind of point differential to decide a spot,
yeah,
you know, is kind of crazy. And then, you know, Aaron didn't end up winning, but, you know, had he won, like, his point differential between him and Cooper's Cousins was, you know, it was close enough. I mean, 40 points to where that could have played a part, even though it didn't end up in the end. But yeah, it's crazy, amazing, you know, weekend of football. And yeah, I mean, hopefully the playoffs are just as crazy, right?
Yeah. You hope. And injuries seem to always be an issue. Luckily, there's no buys, right? We don't have Buypocalypse Part 3 coming up. All the buys should be done from here on out, so that's going to be helpful. Yeah, it's going to be. We'll see what kind of scramble happens to the waiver wire this week as well. But yeah, no, I mean, it was fun to kind of be a part of. And, you know, G, you know, he called me, I think after the Sunday afternoon game. Did he call me after the Sunday night game? Sunday night game. And was just talking, and he was like, oh man, this is so much fun. This is what it's all about. Whoever wins, you know, hopefully do well in the playoffs. Cause I mean, you know, we take it probably too much to heart sometimes. I know I do. And, you know, and G's absolutely right. So it should be about having fun and interacting. And, you know, we probably don't use the chat enough in terms of talking crap and talking about the scenarios and all that fun stuff. So it was cool to really hear from him and, you know, just being a part of it. And there were just so many different scenarios. It wasn't just like, well, this team wins and this team's out. It was just like, there was so much in terms of points, buys still involved, and like 4 teams going for 2 spots. And it was fun. I mean, it's hectic too. I mean, I can't tell you. I mean, I was sitting on my couch because I watched the first half, tried to watch first half at this going away party for my boss. And so I was kind of watching, oh, look, there's Jamar Chase scoring a touchdown. That's a great start. And then I saw he had something like 18 already. He's like, oh, this is going to be great. And Joe Burrow had 35 at half. It's like, oh, this is going to be great. But it doesn't work out where it's like, oh, they keep going. At some point, the offenses slow down. The points aren't coming as much. Joe Burrow's getting sacked more. They're having to punt more. And when it was decided they were going to punt that ball, I was like, okay, well, they could get a quick 3 and out. Maybe Joe Burrow has a chance, or it's going to go in overtime. Because it's not like Cooper Rush was like just leading him down the field all day anyway. But yeah, then that happens, and I'm just like, oh my god, that needs to. And I knew the rule. Maybe some of these other Cowboys didn't know the rule, but I was like, oh, please make that, have that ball touch a Cowboy and get that ball right back to Burrow. And of course, that's exactly what happened. And lucky break, because sometimes those breaks don't work for you, or it works against you. Like I can only imagine what Aaron's going through in that situation. Like, okay, I have a chance. Burrow had some incompletions. They have to punt now. Burrow may never see the ball again, and he comes out with the victory. So that's the world of fantasy football. It's pretty wild stuff as we're 20 minutes into this. Todd, you want to say anything, or should we go to the dough of the week? Or should we go to you for the dough of the week?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, I have I'm the dough of the week.
You can just, are you?
Yes.
I saw 2 candidates. Mikey, did you see 2 candidates this week?
Yeah, I did see. Well,
it's probably Todd.
It is probably Todd. There it may be another candidate.
The only other one I saw was the Belt Sanders did not start Jerry Jeudy over Deebo Samuel. And usually, you wouldn't start Jeudy over Samuel. I think I would have. He's been pretty terrible for quite a long time. And if he would have started Jerry Jeudy over Deebo Samuel, he would have beaten the Tamales by 1 point. 128 to 120, 129 to 128. Now, did that have effect on anything? Would have that sent Mikey to 3rd place? No. But that just has to be in consideration. On the other side, Todd Diamond probably overthought it. Decided oh man, Derek Carr, he's good, I guess. Finished with 33 points. I think Purdy had that by halftime, Mikey. I don't know if we were joking about that. He ended up with 46. And yeah, poor Todd Diamond.
In a way, though, I'll say this on Todd's part.
Okay.
Depending on how you look at it, it actually helped Todd because now Todd gets the 4th pick overall instead of the 5th.
Ah, I see. Now you're thinking outside the box. I like it. Is that what you were going for, Todd?
I don't know what I was going for. I
hold on. For the record, Todd lost by 2. Of course, 46 is more than 30. He would have come through with the win over Cooper's Cousins.
But I still wouldn't have made the playoffs.
No, that you needed a ton.
I needed like 200 points.
You needed Moses to come back and part the Red
Sea
or something like that.
The Red Sea, yes, exactly. So yeah, I saw the alerts on my phone. I didn't see a lot of them. I was in a movie, so I was like, well, whatever. We'll just see what happens. It's fine. It's fine.
I was definitely mad at you at the time because at that time when Cooper's Cousins was someone we needed to lose. And then, because he takes away a spot if he wins. And I'm just like, I can't believe you started Derek Carr over Brock Purdy. It just drove me insane. I was sending you all those gifts back to back. It's like, how could you do this to me? But luckily it didn't matter at the end.
Well, I thought too, I was like, well, Jordan Love only got 28 points. I'm like, all right, that's gonna, it was good. It was a good start. I was like, oh, Jordan Love only got, 28 points. And some degree I wouldn't have started. I would have, well, who am I to say? I started the wrong quarterback. I maybe would have started Geno Smith over Jordan Love because they're playing Detroit, and this is this isn't our our 90s Detroit team anymore. So, yeah. But again, you're right. Yeah,
you almost cost me, Todd. I would have kicked you off the podcast for a whole year.
Hey, I wouldn't blame you there. I was on top of the mountain. I thought, hey, I figured this out. Fantasy football is going to be easy the rest of the way now.
Man, that's a funny statement.
how I figured it out. But yeah, now I'm now I'm gonna pick fourth, and yeah, Rubik's cube. I don't know what that is anymore. Um,
But
I don't have the.
You like the Simpsons, don't you?
I do like The Simpsons.
No, 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 no.
All
You know
right. Well,
what? You know what I need to find for next year? I need to find a Simpsons analogy that I can use. There we go. That's gonna be one of my projects I'm gonna figure out for next year is a Simpsons analogy that I can use all season long for my fantasy team. There we go. Continue.
I guess better than an effigy. Let's
Hey.
get let's get into the studs. Mikey, did I miss anything else from the playoffs? Anything else you want to mention?
Well, just a couple things,
Sure.
because like I felt like this year was a little bit different than most in the fact that that there was a larger gap between the top teams and the rest of
Yeah.
the group. And I don't think I've ever seen this happen before. I would have to look. But
You
Kilgore
are the
Trout,
historian after all.
Kilgore Trout especially, I don't know if we've ever had a situation where the team that was number one ranked had the most points scored and also the least points against them.
What a
Like
chump.
it well, yeah, but not only that, I finished second with the second most points, and I was, I think, third in points allowed.
Yeah.
You know, but if you look at the standings, that's how it was. Like it was like all the best teams had scored the most points, but also had the least points against them, with the exception of you. And then the teams that were at the bottom scored the least amount of points and had the most points scored against them. Like that to me is not typical of a normal year. So I mean, that's what created the gap. Um, of the six teams that made the playoffs, five of them, were five of the top scoring teams, including yourself. The only one that wasn't was NWA, and he was right there.
Yeah.
So, so I
So
mean,
so that's a good sign, right?
it's a good
There
sign.
wasn't someone that was left out that
Yeah,
was like a high scoring team, and because I felt like, I don't know if that was me last year, but I know I felt like I was very unlucky in terms of how things panned out for me, and that's just how I viewed it, and that we all have our own visions of how our seasons go. But yeah, I feel like sometimes, and I remember Joe had a season where he was one of the top scoring teams, maybe the top 3 or 4, but he was just unlucky and didn't have the right record, and then that's why you see some leagues put in as the 6th seed. It's not your record; it's whoever's the next highest scoring team.
well,
Now
yeah,
that very rarely happens, though. I feel most of the time, if you're highest scoring, you're in the mix.
yeah, and three teams that with double digit wins.
Yeah,
That's to me. I'm sure maybe it's happened once before, but that's not definitely not usual. Yeah, I mean, what it means is that these playoffs are going to be highly competitive and a lot of points scored.
yeah, yeah. We'll talk about that at the end. We'll kind of go through the matchups a little bit. A lot of under 500 teams in the playoffs. Well, I guess one under 500 team, which is me, but
But he like
but they
that's
all
my
had
point.
chances, right? They all had points. You're
That's
right,
my
right? I scored a lot
that's
of
my
points.
point. Is you scored a
Yeah,
lot of points, so your record is 6-8, but based on points that you had in the season, like there's a little bit of unluckiness to your record. Like
yeah,
your points say you're better than that, and
yeah.
so yeah, I mean, I think it's going to show in the playoffs.
Let's go. Let's rack up the points and keep things going. It's been exciting for sure. All right, let's get into the studs.
The cream of the crop. Nobody does it better.
Mike, I'll let you go first. Who stood out? There's a lot of massive performances this week.
Man, like
Massive.
there are three obvious
Yeah.
ones that. And I mean, I can pick any one of the three. I'm sure you guys will take whichever two that I don't. I'm gonna go with the one that affected my matchup, and that's Josh Allen.
Josh mother flipping Allen.
So
Hated
yeah,
him.
I mean,
Hated him so much.
because of him basically alone, I didn't really need to win. Like
Yeah.
Gonzo Cats put up basically his highest scoring performance of the year, um, almost basically 80 points. He had 3 passing touchdowns, 6 touchdowns total, which is just completely insane. He was a guy that, as you all know, I wasn't extremely high on. I think I said he would
Oh, that's
finish
right.
outside of the top 10. But he came through for Gonzo Cats and for me when I needed him the most to clinch that bye. So, hey, I'm a big Josh Allen fan now.
All of, all of a sudden, Josh Allen. Yeah, I was mad at him because I had James Cook, and I was like, I can't get one touchdown. Josh Allen's got to take them all. And yeah, what was the stat here? I have it here somewhere. He is the second person ever to reach 3 pass touchdowns and 3 rush touchdowns in a game since Otto Graham did it in the 1954 NFL championship game.
Hmm.
Unreal. Yeah, he was one of the guys on my list. Big time performance. And they lost the game. And I feel like most of the time that happens, right? You have to score that many points because you have to, and they still lost the game. So it seems crazy in that regard too. But that's just the way. That's just football in general. Todd, stud from this past weekend.
I'm gonna go with Joe Burrow. Man,
Joe Burrow, my hero.
just looking at it too, how good his Bengals team would be if they had a good if their defense didn't suck so bad.
Well, I think
I
that's
mean,
part
they
of it, right? Is that he has to score because the
yeah,
defense
yeah,
is so bad,
like
and that's almost what you want
of
as a
course,
fantasy owner is to be like, okay, I need you to throw all the time. And if you're on a good team, you probably don't have to throw all the time. Joe Burrow has to throw all the time, and that's why he's the number 1 scoring quarterback in our league by 50 some points.
yeah, but man, they'd probably be better than the Chiefs at this point. Probably be better than Chiefs. They didn't lose all those games. But yeah, 63 points, 3 touchdowns, only 1 pick. I mean, and obviously the Bengals still have a shot, have an outside shot of making the playoffs. But yeah, Joe Burrow's been I mean, we nitpick at the fact of how bad their offensive line is. And yeah, I mean, and it's a great thing. Fantasy world, this is what we're talking about, what we're doing, that the fact he has to throw the ball a lot and they have no choice. But yeah, I mean, at this point now, if I'm Joe, I'm riding Joe Burrow all the way to a championship. Like that's, I mean, in this case, and he's really set up for, um, to get back to the title game and maybe potentially win it, because Joe Burrow and the Bengals have to keep, they have to keep playing because they still have an outside chance of making the playoffs. So Joe Burrow's going to have to throw, and it's almost automatic, which is scary for the rest of, for these playoffs, because Joe Burrow is capable, and obviously shown all season long he can put up, 60 points like it's breathing. So good for Joe for taking a really taking not a risk of Joe Burrow, because we know he's injury prone as well too. But yeah, he got it right. I mean, if Joe Burrow keeps doing what he's doing, then it's going to be tough. It's going to be tough.
Yeah, 63 points. He's got 6 games this season with 60 or more points.
That is,
unreal.
I don't think, even, and we'd have to go back and look and see, but I don't know if Peyton even had that many games of 60 plus.
So
in
I
his
saw
heyday.
I saw a stat today where that Burrow, he's had 5 consecutive games where he's been above 250 passing yards and 3 touchdowns, and that's happened 4 times in league history. The record's 6 games in a row, so he's one behind Brady in 07. He had tied Peyton Manning in 2012 and Steve Young in 1998 to do it 5 straight games. But yeah, he has 18 touchdown passes in his last 5 games.
You said Steve Young was one of them?
Yeah,
What year was that?
that was 98.
Man.
That wasn't even the
And
Super
here's
Bowl.
who Joe Burrow has left: Tennessee,
Uh-huh.
who's 20th against quarterbacks, Cleveland 26th, and then Denver. So tough opponents, but he had 53 against Pittsburgh. So I think he'll be okay.
I mean,
Unless this injury ends up being a problem, but he came in after the injury and finished and played whatever. So,
dude, he's gonna light up Tennessee and Cleveland. Gee, I mean, except for the
well,
Broncos, he
well, the
probably ain't gonna
problem with
that.
that is if they're
What's that?
winning, they've won by halftime,
Uh-huh.
Well,
they don't need him to throw.
and
Yeah,
Tennessee
okay.
doesn't even matter because Joe has a bye,
The
so he's
bye,
not
very
he's
true,
not going to get
Uh,
that matchup.
very true.
okay. So it's really Cleveland and the Broncos. Yeah, Broncos. That's gonna be that'll be the true test right there.
I don't know if
But
you're playing that well, it may not matter.
mm,
I'm gonna say for my stud, I mean Jamar Chase. We'll just connect it. Uh, what dude, number one wide receiver, and it's not even close. He's got 251 fantasy points. Number two, Amon-Ra St. Brown with 186.
hey,
He's got 93 receptions, 1,300 yards, and 15 touchdowns. Uh, and what he was able to do, I mean, I can't tell you that I was nervous he wasn't going to get to that 18-point mark because of just what he's been able to do. He's only had what? So he had two slow games. The Bengals were slow out of the gate. But man, since then, and he's had some big time performances 23, 31, 42, 22, 36. And so I don't know how many of us had him near the top in terms of what he was going to do. I mean, I didn't have him number one or number two, but what he's been able to do has been pretty incredible. And so to be able to affect the outcome for me obviously was huge. And the outcome to give Aaron a chance was huge. And man, he's a stud. And he's been able to kind of be consistent and he's benefited. He's got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 touchdowns in the last 4 games. So we're talking about the last 5 from Burrow. He's benefited and he still had 9 in the one game he didn't have a touchdown. So Jamar Chase was big time on Monday night. Mikey, anybody else? I mean, those were the big 3, right?
Yeah, yeah. I'm actually going to cheat here, because I'm going to do 2 things. I'm cheating because I'm picking 3 people at once, and I'm also cheating because I'm picking 2 of the guys on a losing team. Uh,
I'll allow it.
so I'm going to pick 3 Dolphins,
Oh, there you go. Good idea.
and so I'm going to take Tua, Jonnu Smith, and Jason Sanders.
Oh,
Uh, Jason Sanders because I had asked you, and he had 16 points, by the way, which was
yes, he
big for
did.
Kevin. But I had asked you when they were down by 3 whether or not you wanted him to make that field goal at the end of the game.
Yeah.
It was a 52-yard field goal.
Yeah, it's a 5-point field goal.
And you're just like, yeah, I mean, I don't know. Probably not going to win
didn't know.
anyway. So I don't care. And then, he makes it. So that's another 5 points you have to make up because I think at that point you were just worried about your matchup and whether or not you were going to win,
Yeah.
not thinking of every other scenario. But yeah, if he misses that field goal, then the 24
I lose
points
by 4.
the 24 points that you get in that overtime never happens and you don't make the playoffs. So Jason Sanders, got to give it to him for not just the 16 points, but making a tough field goal to give Tua and Jonnu the opportunity to score the 24 in the overtime.
So I got to thank Kevin in some regards.
mm,
Or
Yeah.
I'll say thank Sanders. How about that? No, yeah, it's crazy, right? It's the scenarios you don't think about. It's like, 5. I still had Kyron Williams and James Cook. I was like, should I just not worry about this? But you're right. I mean, that scenario, how often does that scenario come around? In terms of, okay, he makes it, they go down, get they rack up some completions, and that's fantasy, and you're in both in terms of fantasy football and in your mind, right? It's just like in the championship game, and you have Josh Allen's game from last night or on Sunday. Like that's just a dream. That's something you don't think about. And when it happens, you're like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Everything I'm thinking about and wanting him to do, he's doing. He's throwing for 3 touchdown passes. He's rushing for 80 yards, and he runs for 3 touchdowns. And so, my day didn't go great. I mentioned it. I have 4 players under 4 points. So I wasn't expecting anything to really go well in that regard, but it went well enough where it went, I got what I needed in that overtime, and it made the huge difference. You're right. I'm glad you kind of saw it that way. I didn't see it that way. pretty wild stuff. Did you have any other studs?
Well, I guess I'll add one more to the Cincinnati offensive juggernaut, Chase Brown. 21 points, 58 yards rushing, 6 receptions. I mean, he's really you kind of have that trio really of Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase and Chase Brown. And they, lose, we thought coming in losing Joe Mixon, was that going to hurt him? But Chase Brown is definitely, proven he can be he can be the number one guy, and he's proved it all season long. So, again, that's another, again, if the Bengals defense wasn't so bad of how good, I mean, I think they'd still put up a lot of points. I know to some degree, if you have a good team, you're not throwing as much and you have to depend on a lot of people, but I'd still say, geez, they'd probably be undefeated if their defense didn't suck so bad. But Chase Brown, I mean, definitely a player to, obviously the way I'm looking at things now, looking into next year, he's definitely, maybe could be a potential top 10 pick next year for at least for running backs next year. So good on Kevin for, for kind of, picking Chase Brown, drafting Chase Brown, and, kind of riding the hot hand. And he's been, he's been one of the best so far this season. So good on him for that.
Yeah, he's top 12 in terms of running backs, 186 points. He's got 735 rushing yards, 6 touchdowns, 44 receptions, and 302 yards and 3 receiving touchdowns. And yeah, he's a few points behind Joe Mixon. So just interesting how that's kind of translated over. The last stud I will say, and I mean, because we talked about pretty much everyone else, because I also had Tua and Jonnu in that situation as well. But Josh Jacobs, just because, he's another 3 rushing touchdown day. That's his second game where he's had 3 rushing touchdowns in one contest, 24 points. Of course, helped the Tamales beat the Belt Sanders. Jacobs 6th overall amongst running backs in terms of points. He has 215. Actually, is that right? Yep, 215 points. Having a great year, 12 games with 10 or more points, 4 games with 20 or more points. He's been incredibly consistent, gives you big games, and that's a reason why Mikey's number 2 in the playoffs. So let's go to the duds.
This is the worst. You are the worst. I hate looking at your face. I want to smash it.
Anybody's face you wanted to smash, Miguel?
Yes.
Smash away.
So I could mention Deebo Samuel for the second week in a row because he was terrible once again. However, I am giving the dud to Allen because, and I'm so happy that this didn't matter, because if I was in Quain's position and it did matter, then I would have probably been mad about it.
So you're speaking on behalf of CUP right now?
Yeah, I mean, it didn't end up mattering because he lost, but
true.
had he won, then I would have been mad in his position, and that was that Allen didn't take Ramondre Stevenson out of his lineup.
Yeah.
And he was on a bye week. I don't know. He could have picked up a number of different running backs that would have given him a win. Sincere McCormick was a guy that was a starting running back that he could have picked up and filled in and would have beat me with. And so, while I appreciate the win,
it's a tough way to win.
Right. I mean, it's like, like I said, it didn't end up mattering in the sense, and I'm glad for that. But yeah, I got to give it to him for that, for not swapping him out for somebody else.
Come on, Alan. Put those guys in. I know you're out of it, but come on, man.
Yeah, I put Derek Carr in, for God's sake.
Well, that could be a dud. Let's talk. We've talked enough about Derek Carr, but I think he's a definite dud this week. I just don't understand. I understand. Is it because the Giants are on the other side and you're like, oh, they're going to kill the Giants? I mean, it's not like Derek Carr's been lighting it up this season to be able to say, yeah, this will be great. I mean, he had 40 points against the Rams last week, 1 touchdown pass. And I understand, and maybe this part of it too, but Brock Purdy was in the snow last week, and so he didn't play well, so you didn't want to start him.
I just really did look at the matchup, and I was like,
because he had 13 last week against Buffalo in the snow, and that just freaked you out, huh?
Yeah, I just maybe the Giants aren't playing for a whole lot. Not saying they were gonna not show up and not play, but I I don't know. I just thought maybe the matchup was a little bit better, and and maybe I was trying to double down on all my Saints players with Scantley and Kamara, and yeah, that's it. Did I was wrong, and it uh, just backfired. But again, that's my and maybe too the fact that the NFL decided to have all these bye weeks so freaking late because
But that didn't
again,
matter. Well, I mean, I guess because of Jaden Daniels is what you're saying.
yes, and maybe the Broncos defense as well too. But again, I'm not
But everybody deals with that.
of course, and I knew that, and I knew that going in. But I looked at the matchup and I was like, oh, it's the Giants. You know,
But
I
it's
just
yeah. I mean, it's the Bears defense who not very good either.
so
And,
maybe it
and I
was
know, and I guess San Francisco they'd been struggling at least trying to put up points, but I was Derek Carr is not good. He hadn't been good since week 2. Even week 2, he had 36 points. Because the team scored 44 points, but he only had 36 of that.
hmm.
But yeah, I don't know. I was just like, oh, Derek Carr. I understand. I get what you're like. Well, okay, Scantling's been doing well. He's been scoring a touchdown last couple games, and Kamara obviously, but that hasn't translated into big fantasy points for Derek Carr. But sometimes we overthink things, right? We all do it.
You got that right. It's the story of my life.
So I mentioned a dud. Todd, did you have a dud?
I was just saying my whole team for the entire fantasy
I wouldn't
football
say it was your
season.
whole team. Oh, you're talking about your all season? We'll
Just
go to the all season awards later.
uh where was my other dud?
While you look for one, I'll mention another one.
Okay, cool.
My boy Nick Westbrook, Ikine, excuse me, who, man, 1.95 points. Maybe I got sucked in. He had a touchdown in 7 of his last 8 games. You see Jacksonville on the secondary, like, oh man, this is going to be easy money. And we know we didn't see the entire game, Mikey and myself, but yikes. That offense just didn't move. The quarterback, not great. And I don't know. It bothers me to have such a great matchup. He'd been great. I mean, you see that every week. Okay, week 1, that's a fluke. Week 2, that's a fluke. And maybe you get to 3 and 4. Okay, maybe something's happening. Maybe this is starting to turn around. Maybe Akine's found his spot and Levis is going to find him and this is going to be great. And then one catch against one of the worst secondaries in the league. And then you just think you're cursed.
Mm.
You're like, I mean, I got picked him up a couple weeks ago. I was like, I'm probably not going to play him. And then you see the matchup, and I think I had another bad matchup on the other side. That's why I didn't play. And I went over this with Mikey. I was like, oh man, Jamison Williams against Green Bay. That's a tougher matchup. It is at home. The NFL and the over under. It's pretty good, but I think Ikine, because I mean, I've seen too many games where Jamison Williams does fine. He does 5, 6, 7, 8 points. He's had one double figure game in the last 7, 8 games or whatever. And I was like, okay, I'm going to go with upside. Let's go with Ikine, and does almost nothing. What a piece of crap. That's one of my duds. Todd, did you have one now, or should I go to Mikey?
I was gonna go James Cook.
He was the other one on my list.
Is
that his fault, or is that the selfishness of Josh Allen? That needs to be talked about more often, I think.
Yeah, I mean, come on, Josh Allen, selfish. I mean, come on, that's the definition. No, I mean, all those points in that game, and James Cook only has
Preach.
only under 5 points. Not what you're looking. Hopefully, maybe this, get Josh Allen, get that out of his system, and like, okay, let's hand the ball off to James Cook so we can help Eric win the championship here. Like, come on, Josh Allen, stop being
me in that moment.
exactly. Hey, I mean, doesn't he understand fantasy football is it's high up in the hierarchy of what when you're out there, when Josh Allen's out there playing football, he needs to remember, oh, I got to make sure I get I give the ball to James Cook because fantasy football is important. But it's put it this way: if it's gonna if he has a game like this and it's right, but toward the end of the season and not in the playoffs, hey, you count your blessings. But
It's probably true.
it
It's probably true.
it happens. It happens. What are you gonna do? But at this point now, like I said, you gotta just not overthink it now and just this can be your run. Can you have a Butterfingers type run where you start from the bottom and get to the and get to the mountaintop, because that's what it's all about.
His 4
Right.
points were the worst outing of the season.
Okay.
Thanks, James.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Mikey, anybody else?
Well, I was going to mention Nick Chubb. It's hard though, because him being injured coming in, to this season, they're trying not to overwork him, and he doesn't play really passing downs, and so he just at all this year really hasn't been Nick Chubb of old, and it really hurt Aaron. Bye weeks really hurt Aaron.
Yeah,
But
for sure.
yeah, I mean, so yeah, I'm gonna give it to Nick Chubb.
Yep. I'm out of duds. There's a lot of massive performances. There's a lot. I'm sure there's other ones we could talk about, but those are the ones that stood out. Let's get into the Week 15 schedule, the MHA playoffs, the quarterfinals. Of course, we mentioned it. Number 1 seed Kilgore Trout, first round bye. Number 2 seed Hot Tamales, first round bye. Number 3 seed Notorious CUP. They will take on yours truly, who's the number 6 seed, the Lemonheads. And number 4 seed Eaton W's taking on number 5 seed Cooper's Cousins. Let's get some just quick thoughts here on the matchups. It's early in the week. Waivers haven't gone through yet, but Lemonheads versus CUP. All I know is I look at my team and I see a lot of red in terms of what the matchups look like. Now they're only matchups. I got to figure out, with this wide receiver situation. Detroit, of course, I have a few Detroit players, and they play Buffalo this week. James Cook playing Detroit. Detroit's 31st in terms of what they do against running backs. I got to figure out what's going on with Bucky Irving. Do I go with him? But he's been dealing with an injury. Who do I put in that regard? Oh, man. I don't feel spectacular, but that's how I feel on that side of things. I got to figure out a defense because I can't run with one I got currently. CUP got Kyler Murray versus New England. That's not a terrible matchup. CeeDee Lamb, Nico Collins is back from a bye. Rico Dowdle's been pretty good. We'll see. He's got Kenny Walker in the lineup now, but he's been dealing with an injury. He had Ray McLeod in the lineup last week. He's got Terry McLaurin, who was on a bye, back in the mix as well. So I don't know. Anybody have any thoughts on this matchup here?
I mean, this is gonna really, for me, it's a lot of this hinges on, can Tua keep up, these big time performances. Houston's a defense that's really good at rushing the passer, but they give up a lot of big plays. So I mean, it's there for Tua to have another big game, to help you out there, and then for CUP side, Kyler Murray going up against the New England defense that's hasn't been good either. So it's both quarterbacks I think are in advantageous spots. I mean, you have your Detroit guys in what could possibly be a shootout of sorts.
Yeah, from what we saw last week, could be. It's inside, which is helpful. It's in a dome.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, big thing for CUP is Kenny Walker's health, because he does not have like the most depth at the running back position. He's got a ton of it at receiver, but not at the running back position. So if Kenneth Walker can't play, Ray Davis got him a 0 last week.
Yeah.
His other option is Travis Etienne, who has not been good all year. So, yeah, pay attention to Kenny Walker and what that news is.
I think it would be ironic if I lose because Terry McLaurin goes bananas, just for as much crap as I talked about Terry McLaurin the last few years, and he ends my season with a great performance because he has been absolutely stellar here this year. So we'll see how that goes as he takes on New Orleans, who gives up the ninth most points to running backs. Let's take a look at that other first round matchup. Cooper's Cousins eating W's here for sure. Jordan Love gets Seattle's defense this week. Marvin Harrison Jr. currently in the lineup for Cooper's Cousins. I don't think he played him last week. DJ Moore, Minnesota, Achan versus Houston. Rob Bijan versus Las Vegas. We still got Braylon Allen in the mix, and that's, I don't know. He's got him currently in the flex spot, so he did all right. There was who? Do you remember who the other Jets running back was in the mix too? I mean, there was another running
Yeah, it
back.
was Isaac Davis.
Nice job, Miguel. So really good with that stuff. So Isaac Davis, I think he scored a touchdown, so that could be kind of iffy. And we know he's got the Chicago wide receivers, and they're taking on Minnesota, and they gave up some points this past week, so we'll see how that goes. On the other side, Stafford's got San Fran. You never know. I mean, San Fran hasn't been the best defense.
It's a Thursday night game on the road.
Oh, that's even crazier. So we'll find out a lot about that early too. Mike Evans in the lineup against the Chargers, Amari Cooper against Detroit, Chase Brown against Tennessee, Joe Mixon against Miami, Brock Bowers against Atlanta, Jalen Waddle against Houston. So Stafford against San Fran or CJ Stroud against Miami. I mean, that could be a deciding factor in how everything kind of goes together. Of course, Pickens, we mentioned earlier, kind of doubtful. Brees Hall still dealing with an injury. They may not bring him back. So what are they really playing for this season? So any thoughts on that?
Well,
the matchup, I should say. Sorry.
Keep in mind, too, which is interesting about this game, is that there's 2 Monday night games this week.
Oh, no kidding.
Yeah, and so each guy has the Bears play the Vikings, so DJ Moore will be playing in that one, and then the Raiders play the Falcons, and so Brock Bowers is going to be on the other end of that.
And Bijan Robinson for Cooper's Cousins.
Yeah, so
in there as well.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot decided on that Monday night side of things. It's another interesting matchup. I'm interested to see if Kevin sticks with Stafford. I mean, he's got other options he's got 2 other quarterbacks on his roster. So man, I don't know what I would do. That's a tough decision for him at quarterback.
Now, this happened way back in week 3, but Stafford had 30 points against San Francisco's defense. Yes. But that was a long time ago. Last week, they gave up 35 points to Caleb Williams, 45 points to Josh Allen the previous week, Jordan Love 31. So solid against quarterbacks, San Francisco's defense. And we'll see how CJ Stroud does. Hasn't been overwhelming. He has had 3 straight weeks of 39 points or less. Actually, no, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 weeks in a row with 39 points or less, including 22 points against the Jets defense.
Yeah.
Not an easy decision.
But
it's not like Jordan Love's has been lighting up the world either.
Yeah, he and Dylan's got quarterbacks facing each other on Sunday night, so that's kind of interesting too.
So there you have it. Anything else we need to mention? We're at 58 minutes, so I knew we weren't going to be able to get to. I did have a game ready, but we'll save it for another time. But yeah, here we go. First week of the playoffs.
Well, yeah. Just one thing, because Todd is the defending champion, and so he is the champion until someone else is crowned. So I'd be kind of interested to know, Todd. You've seen the 6 teams that are in, and you know what the bracket looks like. As defending champ, who wins this thing?
Ooh,
I like that.
I would say right now, if everything goes away, it looks like Joe's team just looks it just looks. I know, Mikey, you put top scoring team all season long, but I don't know. I think Joe's on a mission. I think he, last year played me in that, and how close he was getting a championship. I think he's on a mission. It's going to be tough. But right now, the way Joe's team is constructed, I think he wins it. I think he gets redemption, and wins championship as of right now.
Give me the tamales. That 3-headed monster of running backs. That is hard to beat. We've seen it all year. And it took Joe to have one of the best performances in MHA history to beat Mikey. So, not saying he couldn't do that again, but I get it. Joe Burrow, Joe Vaccarelli. I'm going to take Mikey for the championship. But we'll see. Everything starts on Thursday and 2 Monday night games. Fun stuff. Well, thanks for hanging with us here for an hour. Goodness, an hour. A lot to cover in this past week. What a fun week 14. Good luck to everybody in the playoffs. And we will see you next time on the MHA podcast.